I'm David Lombardo, and this is WCNY's The Capitol Press Room, and we're shining a light on legislation expanding the pathways for New Yorkers behind bars to earn time off of their sentences. To discuss the proposal, we're joined in the studio by Katie Schaffer, Director of Advocacy and Organizing at the Center for Community Alternatives. Welcome back to the show, Katie.
Thanks so much for having me.
So under the status quo, what can someone in prison do to earn time off their sentence, and who are these opportunities available to? Is it anyone behind bars, or can it vary based on what you're in prison for?
So for the vast majority of people who are incarcerated, the only way to earn any time off your sentence is called good time. And good time is granted for good behavior, for following facility rules. And people can only earn a very small amount of time off their sentences. New York used to have a far more robust earned time program that got gutted in the mid-90s at the same time that New York gutted college and prison programs. New York has now turned a corner on that, has reinstated state financial aid for incarcerated college students, has reinvested in support for people's rehabilitation and transformation inside, but our earned policies haven't changed. For a small fraction of people, they're able to earn something called merit time, which you earn for going above and beyond completing educational programs, college degrees, workforce training, other kinds of programmatic accomplishments, but that is available for less than 20% of incarcerated people.
And when we talk about reducing time, is this, say, reducing the amount that a judge may have initially sentenced someone to, or is this within the range that a judge may have sentenced someone to? How should we think about the possible reductions?
So it's sort of part of the broader system that sort of currently exists and exists in systems across the country. And New York is actually very behind in earned time. That states as conservative as Alabama and Oklahoma allow you to earn more time off your sentence. And this exists sort of in addition to the sentencing range. So it would allow you to earn time off below that sentence.
So if, for example, a judge says, I'm sentencing you, Dave Lombardo, to 10 to 12 years, this would potentially create a pathway for me to serve less than even 10 years?
Yes, although that's true under the current system, too.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean, the current system that allows that. And speaking once more about the current system, how discretionary is the awarding of good time or merit time? Is there a system of subjective metrics that are in place, or is this based on prison guards and prison administration to determine whether a person's behavior would qualify for the existing rules and available programs? Under
the current system, there is a huge amount of discretion by docs about when to award or remove good time or merit time, and it creates some real abuses, some real ways that people who have earned that time then subsequently are not actually granted it.
So let's talk about the potential changes to the system, because as I mentioned at the top, this would include expanding the pathways for New Yorkers to earn time off their sentences. So what sort of activities or behavior would you like to see someone participate in or demonstrate that would let them reduce their sentence moving forward?
So it's the same general categories. The bill doesn't change the structure. So there is good time, which is good behavior, and there is merit time, which is programmatic accomplishments, educational, workforce, other kinds of programming. And the sort of basic idea is that correctional facilities aren't supposed to be places where people are just warehoused, that collectively we should be invested in people's rehabilitation and transformation, and that earned time opportunities are both good for that individual person, but they're also good for the culture of the facility and for the community when people get home. There's very clear research that earned time programs reduce violence in state prisons and reduce recidivism when people come home. And you can understand why, that if we support people in engaging in programming, that gives some people something to work on and work towards while they're inside, that improves the culture of the facility. And then when people come home, they have those college degrees, have that workforce training, have engaged in that kind of programming, and it means that people are less likely to return once they come home.
Are there new ways that someone could demonstrate good time or merit time under this legislation, or is it just about, say, amplifying what people are doing to qualify for good and merit time?
So it would allow everybody to, right now, everybody is eligible to earn good time, but only a very small fraction of people are eligible to earn merit time. So you can earn a GED, a college degree, a master's degree. You can create programs. You can do mentorship. You can do really a truly tremendous amount of work, be very clear in those accomplishments, and you are not eligible to earn any of that time. So it would allow people to earn merit time, and then it would increase the amount of time that they can earn.
Right now, in our prison system, there is a concern about, say, the availability of programming due to the shortage of staff relative to the number of people who are behind bars. Is there reason to think right now we have the infrastructure to implement something like this more expansive approach to good time and merit time?
Yeah, there really is. I mean, one of the sort of dynamics of this is that a lot of the strongest programs are provided by outside facilitators. So it doesn't actually cost docs anything. Docs is not who is providing college and prison. And so what we really need is not both to encourage incarcerated people to engage in these programs, but also, frankly, to encourage docs to facilitate programs coming in ways that right now they sometimes put up obstacles. And so this would be also encouraging docs to take a more sort of transformative look at what programming could and should look like.
But, for example, you mentioned, say, a college class. You're still going to need someone at the facility to escort the professor in, to bring the incarcerated people over to the classroom, to probably supervise to some degree. And if you don't have the bodies to do that, how can you make those programs available? So I guess that's what I'm concerned about when you talk about the capacity to do something like this and whether it could actually be realized by everyone.
It really should be able to. New York has a far higher ratio of staff to incarcerated people than other states and of the federal system.
Do we need to redeploy those people, though?
Yes. So there does need to be, and this is part of what's been acknowledged as New York State has closed some facilities, is that we actually don't make very good use of our staffing. And so there is work, regardless of this bill, that docs needs to do to make sure that they're making good use of their staff.
Well, before we move on, let me reintroduce you. For listeners just joining us, this is WCNY's The Capitol Press Room, and we're speaking with Katie Schaffer, Director of Advocacy and Organizing at the Center for Community Alternatives. So we recently heard from State Senator Dean Murray, a Long Island Republican who's the ranking chair on the Crime Victims Committee, and one of the things he talked about in terms of their agenda in this space moving forward was this idea of focusing more on what the crime victims and their family want. So for something like this bill, if the crime victim who's relevant to an individual's experience says, I don't care that this person is taking strides to improve their life or is rehabilitated to some degree, how, if at all, should that be factored into this type of calculation when deciding, okay, we're going to let this person, earn some time off their sentence?
This would be sort of system-wide. It would be us making a collective societal decision that we believe that people can change, transform, believe that people can redeem themselves, and that we want to provide people the opportunities to do that, and that we know that most people are coming home, and we want people to come home better off rather than worse off than they went in. And there is real support for this legislation from crime victims, from survivors, from groups that work with them. A dozen groups penned a letter to state leadership calling for the passage of this legislation. And we really sort of see in that the urge and the desire for people that we're not just warehousing people and then sending folks home less supported and more traumatized, but that what is in everybody's interest is for people to come home better able to support their families, to engage with their communities.
But I imagine, though, there are still going to be some crime victims or their family members or friends, in the case where maybe someone was killed, where they're going to say, I can't move on, and I don't care about this, and I want this person to stay behind bars. I mean, how much credence, if any, do we give to that person and their position on when this person who's behind bars should be released? So
in the way our law works, and this wouldn't change that victims and victims' families testify at the sentencing hearing. Judges take that into consideration as part of sentencing, but that is sort of where that is the role sort of in the system, and this wouldn't change that.
And lastly, for this idea of reducing time, what would be the mechanism for actually, I guess, saying, yep, this person's good to go? Because I know people are familiar probably with the parole board, where someone might be up for parole and they're going to get a review about whether they can be released. Is this something that would still come before a parole board, or would there be any sort of check on whether someone really should get an earlier release?
So this would work the same way the current system works, that if somebody has an indeterminate sentence, meaning their sentence is a range, they go before the parole board. If somebody has a determinate sentence, meaning their sentence is a single number, they don't go to the parole board. So that's the current system, the way current system works with good time and merit time, and this wouldn't change sort of how that system works.
Well, lastly, with the time we have left, there is another bill that's known as the Second Look Act that is kind of a way to reevaluate some of the sentences that have been handed down in the past, and where the people who are behind bars have already served a large portion of their sentence. What are you looking for there, and what is the problem that you're hoping to address?
So I think the Second Look Act, in some ways similar with the Earned Time Act, comes from the basic premise that people can change and that we want to support people's transformation. In the Second Look Act, would allow judges to review somebody's sentence after 10 years. Right now in New York State, there is no mechanism for a judicial review of a sentence, even if every stakeholder thinks that a sentence is no longer fair, just, necessary. There is no means by which that sentence can be reevaluated. So this would simply create an opportunity for a judicial hearing. Even the sort of most thoughtful judge imposes a sentence and is not a fortune teller. They may impose a sentence when somebody is 18, 19, 20 years old. They're now 35, they're approaching middle age, and our system should have a way to look and see, does this sentence still, is this sentence still in the interest of justice? And so this law would create that opportunity, and it has support from the highest levels of New York's judiciary, including our chief judge and chief administrative judge, from legal stakeholders, the American Bar Association, the State Bar Association, the New York City Bar Association, and as with Earned Time, both have the support of correctional leaders, including the former DOCS commissioner, the former prison commissioner, and the former Department of Corrections commissioner in New York City.
And I should point out that this is not some sort of automatic trigger. This is a sense of someone could get a review. And are you anticipating a wide number of reviews? Because I could imagine there's maybe not always an appetite to revisit some of these cases.
So this is, yes, just an opportunity for a review. And so there would be an opportunity for a hearing, and we would anticipate that judges may grant changes in somebody's sentence in some cases, but certainly not in all of them.
Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this conversation. We've been speaking with Katie Schaffer. They're the Director of Advocacy and Organizing at the Center for Community Alternatives. Katie, thank you so much for making the time.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to today's edition of the Capitol Press Room. For an insider take on what's happening in state government, check out our Dispatches from Planet Albany show, available wherever you get podcasts or at capitolpressroom.org.
Join us again for Capitol Press Room, a production of WCNY Connected, Syracuse.